Hello everyone, Ape of the Hour here, and believe it or not, but today is my 1-year anniversary! Yay! Everybody clap, everybody cheer! Yeah! I said cheer. That's better. Now, I put a tweet out a couple weeks ago to invite you to ask me a few questions, since I figured I'd do a Q&A for this year, and many of you did not disappoint. So, without any further ado, allow me to answer your very, very personal and prying questions. So, in no particular order, Asian Andy 94, who's a great Twitch streamer, by the way. He streams fairly regularly, and he's a very good friend of mine. Go check out his stuff if you haven't. Asks, if two guys were on the moon, and one guy killed the other guy with a rock, would that be up or what? Yeah, that'd be pretty up. I agree. Cody Jones, who's been following my stuff for quite a while, asks 3 questions. What software do you use to edit? Where did your literary interests stem from? And would you ever consider doing collaborations? Good question, Cody. Thanks for asking. I guess I'll answer these in the order they've been presented. As for software I use to edit for audio, I use Audacity, which is just a free audio editing and recording software. Pretty standard. I think a lot of YouTubers use Audacity for their audio. As for video editing software, I use Vegas Pro 14 Edit Steam Edition. I was a good ape and decided to buy, legally, Vegas, but I've used Vegas for quite some time. It's a very straightforward, very effective video editing software. It doesn't have a ton of bells and whistles like Adobe After Effects or Adobe Premiere, but it gets the job done, and I really like that about it. Plus, I've had a ton of experience with it. As for my literary interests, that really stemmed shortly after high school. I really got into reading books. I think after I graduated high school, I realized that reading can be fun, as I'm sure quite a few people soon discovered afterwards. But really what inspired me to get into reading was I read the original book, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, and I really loved it. And I'm like, wow, I enjoy this. I should read other stuff. And so I delved into a lot of different science fiction. I love Dune. I love the works of David Brin, especially his Uplift trilogy. I definitely recommend that. I still haven't finished all of Sundiver, but I love what I read of it so far. I really like old stories, like ancient stories, like stories from antiquity, as you can tell. I really like the Epic of Gilgamesh, as you can tell by the video I made of the Epic of Gilgamesh. I really like even works of Homer. I like the Odyssey. I like the Iliad. Antigone is really cool. I like ancient Greek stories. Ancient Norse stuff is cool, like the Eddas. I like Monkey, Journey to the West. I even like Shakespeare. Like Macbeth is like one of my favorite literary works. But yeah, really I read a lot of non-fiction stuff normally, but like I'm really into like mythology, new age takes on mythology. I love history, science fiction, things like that. Those are really my main literary interests. And then finally, would I ever consider doing collaborations? Yeah, sure. If anybody was willing to collaborate with me, but I don't think I'm too well known in the YouTuber community, unfortunately. One of my dream collaborations would probably be with Nitrorad. I think that'd be really cool if he had me. if he even cared about my content, I think that'd be really cool. Or even, you know what'd be crazy? I've been watching a lot of VTubers recently. I think it'd be really cool to collaborate with Kiara Takanashi. I think that'd be really cool, the VTuber from Hololive English, and wow her with my German speaking abilities. But, you know, that's probably a pipe dream. But collaborations, that'd be pretty cool. If anybody's willing to collaborate, please let me know. I'm always available. Gear of Times asks, how do you feel about Sony shutting down its virtual store for PS3, PSP, and Vita? Some of those games will be even harder to find now if they haven't been preserved somewhere online. Hello, folks. Now, at the time of recording this video, Sony had announced previously that they were going to discontinue the online store for PS Vita and PS3, but literally just yesterday, they announced that they are in fact not shutting down the PS3 and PS Vita store and will keep it up for the foreseeable future. However, they are shutting down the PSP store. Just a quick update on the situation. So this is a response to something that ultimately kind of happened. So that's why I'm keeping it in here. Well, Gear of Times, I'm sure you share my sentiment in saying it sucks. It sucks a lot. As an ape that's really interested in the preservation of media in all capacities, be it video games, movies, books, whatever, you know, to have a company shut down its entire storefront and there rid the world of a ton of potential games that have a lot of potential to inspire and to learn from as an artistic source, but also just as a source of entertainment. You know, there could be a game out there that really connects with people on PS3, PSP, and Vita. I know like the big thing about Vita is Vita had a ton of PS1 games that you could play on the go, and that's awesome. I think all the original like Resident Evil titles, the classics on the PS1, you could play those on your Vita. And Capcom hasn't said anything about a Resident Evil Classics port, which is something I really enjoy, okay? Look, I have a PS4. I can play, you know, I can play Resident Evil Remake 2 and 3, but what I would really, really love is a Switch port of Resident Evil 2, 3, and Code Veronica. And maybe the original one. I don't know about that, but that would be cool. I'm saying I'd enjoy that. But now with the PS Vita store gone, you know, being able to play those games on the go, unless I have like Resident Evil DS, the DS game, I'm not going to be able to play them on the go. So it sucks. I really don't like it. And it's such a shame that Sony would decide to do this and, you know, on such short notice. Yeah. I mean, this is why companies like Limited Run Games exist, you know, to preserve these games, but also to, you know, incentivize people to buy physical copies of them. But, yeah, it sucks. I'm not a fan of it. My buddy Sponge the Squid asks, how did you and Siegfried become friends? When did you both first meet? Okay, folks, I gotta establish something. And it's okay if you spelled it wrong, but Siegfried is spelled with an S, not a Z. I'm going with the German spelling of the name. If I were going with a Z, it'd be Siegfried. I'm looking for Siegfried. But anyway, how did we become friends? Well, it's a very unlikely circumstance. He just manifested in my apartment one day, and being that we're both apes, or at least me partially, we really hit it off right away. Although he does do things that upset me from time to time. Like he still forgets to pay his half of the rent and the utilities. Jaw Muncher asks, what is your favorite dinosaur, and how do you feel about their feathers and other scientific findings regarding them these days? Thanks for the question, Jaw Muncher. Well, I'd say my favorite dinosaur is probably a Stegosaurus. I've liked Stegosauri? Is that the correct plural form? Stegosauri? I've liked Stegosauri since I was a wee little apelet. I don't know why. why, I just thought they were really cool. Everybody keeps on going like, but they have the brain the size of a peanut. So what? So do you. As to my feelings about feathers and other scientific findings, I think it's pretty neat. I think the continued kind of theoretical nature of dinosaurs and what they looked like, how they behaved, what they sounded like, I find that all really fascinating. And I find it very rife or very ripe or open to like a horror adaptation of something. Because dinosaurs, you can virtually implant any sort of thing onto them within reason and it could work, right? I think one of the scariest things is that within the scientific community, some theorize that T-Rexes didn't roar like they did in Jurassic Park. A lot of them think they bellowed. And just like this like really low pitched, like dampened, like rumble, I find that a lot more terrifying, a lot more scary to hear than just an outright roar. Like that to me is like terrifying. It's not horrifying, but it's very like it causes tension. As far as feathers, I know probably because dinosaurs are birds and birds are dinosaurs. They're relatives. Birds evolved from dinosaurs. Dinosaurs probably didn't have the same sort of feathers or something similar to feathers as modern birds do. They probably had a little bit of plumage, but I don't imagine they had like a ton of like these really thick, pretty colored feathers. They were probably more like spine-like, maybe with like finer hairs or something on it. I'm not entirely sure. I remember seeing this like dinosaur fan adaptation of a Tyrannosaurus Rex who was plumed like a chicken, like a giant chicken, and it just didn't look right to me. It didn't make sense. But yeah, the feathers are pretty cool. I wonder how scientists are pondering that to this very day. Also, Jaw Muncher, I wanted to let you know, because I keep on seeing people on your Twitter or respond to you on Twitter saying this, so I want to say the opposite. Jaw Muncher, Dino Crisis does not suck. Manic Fan 64, a very good friend of mine, asks, will you ever consider making edits of videos that are similar to the ones that feature the CDI games of Zelda and or Mario, and shows that feature the Mario Bros. And Sonic the Hedgehog? Manic, are you asking me to make YouTube poops? I thought we've been over this 1,000 times, man. I'm not making YouTube poops. I don't know why you're holding on to this dream for so long. But in short, my answer is no. My good buddy Seastigaigus asks, regarding your video's format of presentation, humor, and editing style, who would you say is or are your biggest inspirations? Well, isn't that the $1 million question? Thanks for asking though, Seth. Well, off the top of my head, I can think of 3 YouTubers that have probably inspired me the most creatively. Those would be the Sphere Hunter. I really like Susie's videos, her kind of rhythm of editing, as well as she's rather even-keeled in her presentation of topics, especially things that she likes, and even things she dislikes. Like, she's rather even-tempered, even if a game like really sucks. I really like Nitro Rad. I really love James's work. I like his videos. Same sort of thing. Very. I like reviewers that can be zany. Obviously, because I mean I try to be zany myself. But are also kind of grounded. That have some sort of like calm demeanor that they can kind of return to, and I think James captures that very well. And then finally, aesthetically and in terms of humor, I'd say probably one of my biggest influences is H Bomber Guy. I like his cutaway gags and things like that. I really enjoy his aesthetic with videos and things like that. So Harry has some really funny side gags. Some other aesthetic influences that or like design or like aesthetic choices that I've made that you may not really think about, that may come from a rather surprising source, are ASMR artists. I've been watching ASMR videos for years now, and a lot of ASMR artists have a really good sense of setting scenes. They have some interesting characters in terms of also humor and design and things like that. Believe it or not, Ephemeral Rift is a really big influence on me. He both is really good at setting a scene, but he also has like a very interesting, zany personality, sense of humor, and that's really influenced me in my own way, and in joke writing and things like that. I very much grew up on Adult Swim, and therefore I'm very influenced by a ton of Adult Swim shows. In some of my past videos, you may have seen that in my Perfect Blue video, the intro sequence was clearly inspired by the Eric Andre show. And some other shows that really inspired me. The Brack Show is one of my favorite Adult Swim shows, and Xavier Renegade Angel for just how incredible the wordplay and the utter zaniness of it all. I wish I had a better word to describe it, but it's very, very very zany. It's like a very weird show, but it has some really witty, as much as it has very lowbrow humor, it has some really highbrow humor too. There's some witty wordplay and things like that, and that's inspired me as well in my own sense of humor, I suppose. Casiopea also asks, what would you say are the most prominent hurdles and or difficulties in your current life, aside from work, that affect your ability to effectively produce content? Good question. Well, I'd say lack of motivation is probably the first one. When I first started making videos, I had a ton of free time on my hands, so I was making a video every single week for 2 months. It was crazy. But then ultimately I had to slow down because I couldn't think of things to talk about. But yeah, it's the typical ones. Lack of motivation. Lack of articulation, I'd say, is another one. I'm not sure, certain games or movies or books elicit a certain feeling, and I have a difficult time putting words to it. That's why I love a lot of other reviewers, because they're a lot more eloquent than I am, and they can put things to words that are a lot better than mine, or help me think about putting words to things like that. That's probably one of my biggest hurdles. But yeah, I'd say lack of motivation. I have ideas for videos, but then when it gets down to, what should I talk about it? And that's what's really helpful with streaming, is that I can sit down and play through these games, and then I can go oh yeah, I really like this about it, or oh yeah, this isn't overly great, or oh yeah, this is fantastic. But then again, streaming is is something that I don't do too often. I try to do it fairly regularly, but sometimes I'm just I'm so tired, I can't do it. But yeah, I'd say probably a lack of motivation, lack of articulation. Yeah, those two probably would be the biggest hurdles and difficulties that are affecting my process in making videos. Finally, Casiopea asks,
have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Sure. I think. How do I respond to such a question? My good friend Shay asks, What's your video making process like? Are there any parts of it you dread or enjoy? Well, my video making process. Well, I have to think of it from the beginning. Well, first, of course, it starts with an idea, something I want to talk about, some sort of property. Usually it's something that I've been thinking about recently, generally, or the past month in some instances. And then I sit down and I open up Notepad and just jam out my thoughts. If jokes come up, things I can think of, funny skits, those get injected in there as well. But really the script is the first draft of the video. Then I start recording, and if while I'm recording I think of something funny or something that I want to omit, I get rid of it, or I add in or record that over. And it's like the second draft, it's like the peer edited sort of thing. And then first I actually record footage. I set up everything and record my footage. And then I put those all into folders. And then if it's a video game, I capture video game footage. If it's a movie or something like that, I capture some of that footage as well. Or if it's a book, I may use various different things. It could be from like a movie adaptation, or it could be things I've drawn or other artist representations of it. And I put those in. And then I edit all those together, think about different parts. And then the editing is kind of like the final draft. That's where everything comes together. And yeah, as far as parts I dread or enjoy, I really enjoy the editing process, because then if I have ideas like, oh, this would be really funny, I can put that in there. I could record and then pop it in there. Generally, if I record a joke after I've shot footage for it, I won't reshoot footage for it. But if something funny comes up that doesn't require footage, I could just copy and put it in there. And generally that works out pretty well. As far as things I dread, recording footage, I'd say for that, it gets really sweaty. It's a lot of time to set up everything, to get the perfect arrangement, and things like that. Actually recording the thing is hard, but I think the hard work pays off in the end. But, overall, I really enjoy making videos. I don't think I'd do it otherwise if I didn't. But yeah, I really like making my videos. Thanks for the question, Shay. VGFM, Vintage Graphics Fabulous Models, who is one of the co-creators of Deltarune Repainted, which, if you don't follow games Repainted, I definitely recommend it. I'm very good friends with quite a few people that work over there, and they make some pretty funny stuff, some pretty ridiculous, outrageous stuff. But anyway, VGFM, asks, this is more related to something you talked about on your personal account. Wait, personal account? But this is my personal account. What are you talking about? What is this real? Is this our real reality? Am I even ape of the hour? What's going on? Is this real? But I think you mentioned that you watched some YouTube videos that made you better at cutting up vegetables with a kitchen knife. Do you know where I can find those, or if not, do you have any tips? Thanks for the question, VGFMAK. Well, you've exposed one of my secret passions. When I'm not on camera, folks, I really enjoy cooking. Well, there are a couple videos that I could recommend to you. Probably the one that I'd recommend more than anything is Adam Ragusia's video on how to cut or how to use knives. His whole advice on walk, don't run has been really useful in my own cooking. I've had a couple of close calls when I've nearly cut myself, but I've realized if you slow down and take it easy, you should be good. I am going to link the video in the description, but moreover, I definitely recommend all of Adam Ragusia's videos. I really like his down-to-earth, very novice cook friendly advice and experience, because he's not a chef. He was a professor, even a radio host at one time, who just happened to get into cooking. But I really like his very scientific deep dives into some cooking stuff. Some of his recipe videos are really cool, and a lot of his cooking advice videos are really good. I'd really recommend it. If you want something a little bit more advanced, a little bit more hoity-toity stuff, I definitely recommend Jacques Pepin's video on cutting skills. Jacques Pepin has been teaching culinary techniques for years, and his cutting video is really good. He's quite the master at that. ZK Nails asks, how fluent are you in German? Any other languages you can flaunt? Fluent is a rather relative term, sir. I've been learning German for the past 10 years, and would I say I'm completely fluent in it? No, but I would say I am able to communicate quite clearly. Absolutely clearly? I wouldn't say so. In terms of language levels, I'd say I'm around B2, maybe high B1. I definitely want to get higher up there with more time and practice, but unfortunately I just haven't had a lot of opportunities to practice it with people in an environment that facilitates it, and I haven't had many opportunities to go to German-speaking countries. However, I'd definitely love to. My dream city that I'd love to visit is Vienna, Austria. I think that'd be really awesome. But I'm definitely of the belief that language improves with communication. You find a person that you can talk to, and that makes all the difference in the world. Even if they're not entirely fluent, it does make a big difference. But German, I have a lot of time and practice with, and I've been learning for so long, and I can communicate a lot of things, but I'm definitely still learning. I know a lot, enough I'd say that I could teach people about it, but not to a level that I'd say that I could give an entire speech in on the spot. As for other languages I can flaunt, well, I took a semester of Japanese and a semester of Spanish, and of the two, I think Spanish was the easier one. I think if I really went back and applied myself, I could learn Spanish fairly easily. Japanese, given time and communication partners and things like that, I think I could do pretty well in Japanese. But again, like I said, I feel like language is best learned when you can find immediate meaning to it. So if you have a partner or someone that you can talk to, or you listen to music, or you watch TV shows or listen to podcasts or things like that, that's helpful. But I'd also say that talking to people is the crux of it, because then they can help you in that aspect. But no, there's really no other languages I can flaunt other than English und Deutsch. Well, folks, I want to thank you all for your very lovely questions. And as always, stay classy, stay sassy, and stay grassy. I'll catch you next time.